Welcome to What Dwells Beneath, the podcast that descends into the darkest and most mysterious corners of our world. I'm your host, Perzival, and as always, this episode is produced by Neku. Today, we're peeling back the layers on a tale that's sure to make you look over your shoulder when walking alone in the woods, the Melon Heads. For those who are not familiar, this is a spine-tingling legend. The Melon Heads are a group of mysterious beings said to inhabit various regions across the United States, particularly Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut. With their distinctively enlarged heads and creepy elusive nature, these creatures have captured the imaginations of locals and folklore enthusiasts alike. But are they merely a figment of our nightmares, or is there a grain of truth to these unsettling stories? Before we dive into the heart of the legend, let me scratch your curiosity with a little teaser. Did you know that there have been numerous reported sightings of these eerie beings, with many people claiming to have had spine-chilling encounters? Some encounters report they have stolen their vehicle, while others have reported murder. Stick around as we unravel the threads of this chilling tale and explore the shadowy depths of the Melon Heads' origins. So, why are we covering the legend of the Melon Heads today? Well, for one, it's a tale that has persisted through generations, capturing the dark side of our imagination and raising questions about the nature of fear and the unknown. As a podcast that thrives on exploring the eerie and unexplained, this story is a perfect fit for What Dwells Beneath. Personally, I've been drawn to stories that blur the line between reality and the supernatural. Growing up, I heard whispers of the Melon Heads from friends and family, and their tales never failed to send shivers down my spine. Whether it was a late-night campfire story or hushed conversations at sleepovers, the Melon Heads were a constant presence in my childhood imagination. And now, as an adult, I'm eager to revisit this chilling legend and share it with you all, my fellow seekers of the strange and unexplained. So prepare yourselves, dear listeners, for a journey into the unknown as we descend into the haunting world of the Melon Heads. But beware, what you're about to hear might just keep you up at night. Welcome to What Dwells Beneath, where the shadows hold secrets and the darkness is never far away. The first known mentions of the Melon Heads can be traced back to the mid-20th century, a time when urban legends and ghost stories began to flourish in the American psyche. These early reports often came from local communities in the northeastern and midwestern United States, more specifically in Ohio, Michigan, and Connecticut. Let's take a closer look at each of these regions and the unique versions of the Melon Head legends that emerged there. In Ohio, the Melon Heads are most commonly associated with the rural areas of Kirtland and Chardon. According to local lore, the Melon Heads were once human children who were subjected to cruel and inhumane experiments by a deranged doctor named Dr. Crowe. The experiments caused their heads to swell and deform, earning them the name Melon Heads. Over time, the children managed to escape from Dr. Crowe's facilities and fled to the surrounding woods, where they continued to live in hiding, occasionally emerging to terrorize unsuspecting passersby. The tale of Dr. Crowe is especially gruesome. It's said that he was a scientist with a twisted fascination for human anatomy and genetics. Obsessed with unlocking the secrets of the human brain, he performed horrific experiments on the children, injecting them with various chemicals and subjecting them to extreme physical and psychological torture. These experiments resulted in a grotesque physical deformity, with their heads becoming abnormally large and misshapen. Local folklore claims that one day the children managed to overtake Dr. Crowe. They not only killed him, but his family as well, resulting in their escape. Once free, Dr. Crowe's facility was burned to the ground, either by enraged townspeople or as an act of revenge by the children themselves. The Melon Heads then took refuge in the dense forests surrounding Kirtland and Chardon, where they adapted to a feral existence. Stories of encounters with these elusive beings often describe them as aggressive and territorial, attacking anyone who ventures too close to their hidden lairs. One chilling account from the 1960s tells of a group of teenagers who decided to explore the woods near Kirtland late at night. They claim to have encountered a group of Melon Heads who chased them through the forest with blood-curdling screams. The teenagers barely escaped with their lives, and the harrowing experience has since become a local legend. In Michigan, the legend of the Melon Heads is prevalent in the area around Allegan County. Here, the story goes that a group of children were abandoned in the forest and left to fend for themselves. Over the years, their isolation and inbreeding caused their heads to become abnormally large. These melon heads are said to lurk in the dense woods, emerging only to protect their territory from intruders. The Michigan version of the legend paints a bleak picture of the melon heads' origins. According to local lore, the children were the offspring of the group of settlers who had ventured into the wilderness in the early 1900s. Stranded and cut off from civilization, the settlers faced numerous hardships, including disease, starvation, and harsh weather conditions. As their numbers dwindled, the survivors became increasingly desperate, resorting to extreme measures like cannibalism and inbreeding to ensure their survival. The genetic consequences of this isolation and inbreeding soon became very apparent with the children who developed severe physical deformities, including the characteristic large, misshapen head. As the years passed, the children grew up to become the melon heads, adapting to their harsh environment and developing a fierce protectiveness over their territory. The local residents often share tales of eerie encounters with the melon heads in the woods around Allegan County. One such story involves a young couple who decided to take a late-night drive through the forest. As they navigated through the winding, narrow roads, they suddenly found themselves surrounded by a group of melon heads. These creatures pounded on their car windows and tried to force their way inside, leaving the couple terrified and desperate to escape. They managed to speed away, but the memory of those twisted faces and terrifying shrieks has haunted them ever since. Now, Connecticut's version of the melon head legends centers around the towns of Shelton, Trumbull, and Monroe. In this iteration, the melon heads are believed to have been former patients of an asylum that was destroyed in a fire. The patients, who suffered from hydrocephalus, a condition that causes the head to swell, escaped the blaze and sought refuge in nearby woods. Over time, they became reclusive and feral, attacking anyone who ventured too close. The Connecticut legend is steeped in tragedy and horror. The asylum, known as Fairfield Hills Hospital, was a notorious institution with a dark history of abuse and neglect. The patients, many of whom were children, were subjected to brutal treatments and experiments, leading to severe physical and psychological trauma. When the asylum burned down, the surviving patients fled into the surrounding woods, where they struggled to survive and avoid capture. In their isolation, the former patients formed tight-knit communities, relying on each other for various forms of protection and support. As the years went by, they became increasingly feral. Their appearances and behaviors became more and more twisted. The condition of hydrocephalus only added to the eerie and otherworldly appearance of these patients. Local residents have reported numerous sightings and encounters with the melon heads over the years. One of the most famous accounts comes from the 1970s, when a group of teenagers decided to explore the ruins of Fairfield Hills Hospital. As they ventured deeper into the crumbling building, they claimed to have heard strange noises and glimpsed shadowy figures moving in the darkness. Suddenly, they were confronted by a group of melon heads who chased them out of the building and into the woods. The teenagers managed to escape, but their terrifying experience has since become a popular local legend. As we continue our journey into the eerie world of melon heads, it's crucial to understand the typical characteristics and behaviors that define these mysterious beings. Across different regions, certain attributes and behaviors remain consistent, while others may vary, adding unique twists to the legend. One of the most defining features of the melon heads is their grotesque physical appearance. As their name suggests, the melon heads are often described as having abnormally large, bulbous heads, which are disproportionate to their small, frail bodies. This distinctive feature is central to the legend and is usually attributed to medical conditions such as hydrocephalus, genetic abnormalities, or the result of cruel experiments. Their faces are depicted as twisted and misshapen, with sunken eyes, prominent cheekbones, and elongated limbs. Their skin is often described as pale or sickly, adding to the unsettling presence. The sight of these figures emerging from the shadows is enough to send chills down the spine of anyone who encounters them. The behavior of the melon heads is another key aspect to the legend. These beings are typically portrayed as reclusive and territorial, living in secluded areas such as dense forests, abandoned buildings, or hidden caves. They avoid human contact as much as possible, emerging only to protect their territory or when provoked. Their secluded lifestyle is often attributed to the fear of being discovered and harmed by humans. Having experienced cruelty and suffering in the past, the melon heads have become wary of outsiders. choosing to live in the shadows where they can remain undisturbed. Despite their reclusive nature, the Melon Heads are fiercely protective of their territory. They are known to exhibit aggressive behavior when they perceive a threat to their domain. Stories often describe the Melon Heads as attacking intruders with surprising ferocity, using their cunning and agility to outmaneuver or overwhelm their adversaries. This territorial aggression is a common theme across different versions of the legend. In Ohio, the Melon Heads are said to patrol the woods around Kirtland and Chardon, attacking anyone who ventures too close. In Michigan, they are known to protect the dense forests of the Allegan County, while in Connecticut, they guard their ruins at the Fairfield Hills Hospital. The Melon Heads are also known for the ability to evade capture and detection. They are often described as being highly agile and quick, capable of navigating their surroundings with ease. This elusiveness adds to their mystique, as they can disappear into the darkness at a moment's notice, leaving little trace of their presence. Their evasive tactics are often described in stories of encounters with the Melon Heads. Witnesses describe how the creatures seem to vanish into thin air, using the cover of the night and the dense foliage to escape their pursuit. This ability to remain hidden and elusive only adds to the fear and fascination surrounding the Melon Heads. They are also described as having strong survival instincts, adapting to their harsh environments and developing strategies to ensure their continued existence. Their reclusive lifestyle, territorial aggression, and evasive tactics are all part of their efforts to survive and avoid capture. In many versions of the legend, the Melon Heads are said to live in small, tight-knit communities, relying on each other for protection and support. This sense of community and mutual dependence is a key aspect to their survival, as it allows them to thrive in their isolated and dangerous habitats. One of the most intriguing aspects of the legend is the numerous reported sightings and encounters that have been documented over the years. These accounts, whether well-documented reports or personal testimonies, add a layer of credibility to the legend. These personal encounters I found on the Melon Heads all feel like it's something ripped out of a horror movie. The first encounter goes like this. Last year, me and some of my friends at Hope College decided we want to go to the Allegan County woods in Hamilton in search of the Melon Heads. On our first night there, we went back on a path for about a mile and came to an opening where there seemed to be a foundation of a building still there, but the building was gone. The atmosphere was thick with an unsettling silence, only broken by the occasional rustling of leaves. On the walk back to the opening, there was a sign hanging over the path, but it was too faded to make out the wording. It felt as if the forest itself was trying to keep us away from its secrets. On the first night, we didn't experience anything too out of the ordinary that we didn't think we couldn't explain by animals or other sounds, but something in the air made our skin crawl. We went back the next night, undeterred by our previous unease. This time, it was raining, mixed with some lightning, adding an eerie backdrop to our venture. Me and two other guys were leading the group down the path, the forest cloaked in darkness. About a half mile into our walk, there was a lightning flash, and in the brief moment of illumination, all three of us saw it. The same exact figure of a human, about 4.5 feet tall, with an abnormally large head, standing in the middle of the clearing that we had gone to the night before. It stood there, motionless, with its grotesque head glistening in the rain. When we saw it, we just stood there, paralyzed by the sight. The air around us seemed to grow colder, and the rain felt like icy needles against our skin. The next thing we knew, we heard a huge crash in the woods to the left of us. The sound was like a tree being snapped in half, followed by a series of rapid, thudding footsteps. It was as if something immense and powerful was charging through the underbrush, unseen, yet undeniably close, charging right at us. Panic set in, and we immediately turned and ran back to our cars, our hearts pounding in our chests. As we sprinted through the rain-soaked path, it felt like the shadows themselves were reaching out to grab us. We didn't look back, not even once, because we were afraid of what we might see. When we finally reached the safety of our vehicles, we sat in silence, drenched and trembling, each one of us haunted by the image of the grotesque figure and the terrifying sounds that followed. The Allegan County woods held on to its dark secrets that night, and we were left with an unsettling feeling that we had narrowly escaped something far more sinister than we could ever comprehend. There was no name attached to that personal encounter. However, the next one is titled Local Authorities Deny Existence of Melon Heads. At Whitcliffe High School in the mid-60s, we heard a different version of the Melon Heads story. Some kids were driving around one day, aimlessly cruising the back roads, when they saw a melon head watching them from the side of the country road. The sight was unsettling. Its large head and small, frail body stood out against the darkening woods. Curiosity getting the better of them, they stopped the car and the melon head started into the woods. Unable to resist, they decided to follow. The forest seemed to close in around them, the branches and underbrush forming a maze that led them deeper into the unknown. Their footsteps echoed as they ventured further, the path growing narrower and more twisted with each step. Eventually, they came to an old, weathered farmhouse that appeared almost abandoned, its windows dark and its paint peeling away like dead skin. On the porch sat a middle-aged couple, their expressions weary and guarded, surrounded by several melon heads. The sight was surreal, a taboo of normalcy twisted by the presence of these horrifying figures. The kids, their hearts pounding, asked what was going on. The man, his voice tinged with a mix of resignation and defiance, explained that he had been a nuclear scientist during World War II. After the war, he married, but the exposure to radiation caused all his kids to be born as melon heads. The government, eager to keep this dark secret hidden, gave him a lot of money to keep quiet, and bought this secluded farmhouse where they could live out their lives away from prying eyes. The man's plea was simple yet desperate: tell no one what they'd seen and never return. The gravity of his words hung in the air, a silent testament to the horrors that they have endured. Obviously, the teenagers did not listen. The story quickly spread, becoming the stuff of local legend. Someone told this tale at a party in the summer of 1964, and someone else claimed they knew where the melon heads lived. Fueled by a mix of fear and excitement, we all crammed into our cars and headed out to find them. The night was filled with nervous laughter and whispered speculations as we drove toward the supposed location. Our adventure was abruptly halted when we were stopped by the police in White Hill. The officers were stern and intense, their expressions leaving no room for argument. When they found out where we were going, they gave us a lecture and said there was no such thing as melon heads, and that we should tell our friends the same thing. Their insistence was almost too forceful, as if they were trying to convince themselves as much as us. We were taken to the police station, where we had to call our parents to come and get us. The officers' intense reactions only fueled our suspicions. We all agreed that the police were so adamant in trying to convince us that there were no melon heads, that there had to be melon heads. If not, why were the police so upset that we were looking for them? The unanswered questions and the eerie encounter left a lasting impression on all of us, a dark mystery that lingered in the back of our minds. Now, our final encounter is titled Ditched Melon Head Along Roadside. It goes like this. My name is Tony, and I recently had an experience with the melon heads. It was on October 5th, 2001. My stepfather, mom, stepbrother, and I were driving down Chillicotin Road, which might be misspelled, in Chardon. We've been driving up and down the roads in the same area for almost an hour with no luck. I would like to add that we were actively looking for melon heads. We were just about to go home when we came up on the stretch of road that had fields on both sides and an irrigation ditch running parallel to each side of the road. Just then, I looked out of my window and I saw him, a melon head. He, or it, was running along next to the ditch. Since the ditch was too wide to jump over, it was coming close, like it was about to jump, then pulling away. At the time, we were going around 40 to 50 miles per hour. The melon head was actually keeping up with us. It didn't look like anything I've heard in the stories. He looked about the same height as me, which was around 5'7", was wearing brown pants, which were very ripped up, and where the seams would be, it was held together by what looked like corn husks. It wore a white shirt with brown and red stains all over it, hoping the red stains weren't blood. Its head was very light brown tint. It had 2 holes in the side of its head, which were thought to be the ears. Its head was swollen and the eyes were very big looking. Just as we turned the curve, it jumped into the woods. And that is my story of the melon heads. Signed, Tony. As we discuss the legends of the melon heads, it becomes clear that these stories are more than just tales to frighten and entertain. They are also fascinating glimpses into cultural and social contexts from which they emerged, reflecting the fears and anxieties of the communities that have kept them alive. Urban legends like that of the melon heads often serve as a mirror, reflecting the underlying concerns and preoccupations of the societies that create and perpetuate them. By examining these tales, we can gain valuable insights into the cultural and historical context in which they originated. One of the most repetitive themes in the Melon Head legends is the fear of the unknown. In many versions of the story, the Melon Heads are depicted as mysterious, elusive beings that lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting intruders. This fear of the unknown is a common thread in many urban legends and reflects a deep-seated anxiety about what lies beyond the boundaries of our everyday experience. In the mid-20th century, when the Melon Head legend first began to take shape, rural communities were often isolated, cut off from the outside world by a lack of communication and transportation. This isolation fostered a sense of mistrust and suspicion of outsiders. The Melon Heads, with their grotesque appearances and unsettling behavior, embody these anxieties, serving as a cultural tale for those who dared to venture too far from the safety of their homes. Another significant theme in the Melon Head legends is the fear of medical experimentation and abuse. In several versions of this story, the Melon Heads are depicted as victims of cruel and inhumane experiments conducted by mad scientists or unsuspicious researchers. This theme reflects a growing awareness and concern about the ethical implications of medical research and the potential for abuse. During the 20th century, there were numerous high-profile cases of unethical medical experimentation, such as the Tuskegee syphilis study and their experiments conducted by Nazi doctors during World War II. These incidences raised public awareness about potential for abuse in the medical field and fueled fears about the dangers of unchecked scientific experimentation. The Melon Head legends can be seen as a manifestation of these anxieties, highlighting the potential horrors that can result from a disregard for ethical considerations in medical research. Then there is isolation and inbreeding being a prominent element in the Melon Heads legend, especially in the Michigan version of the story. In this version, the Melon Heads are depicted as the descendants of a group of settlers who are abandoned in the forest and forced to fend for themselves. Over generations of isolation and inbreeding, these settlers developed severe physical deformities, including characteristically large heads. This theme reflects a broader societal fear about the consequences of genetic isolation and the dangers of inbreeding. In small, rural communities where populations were often limited and closely knit, concerns about genetic abnormalities and the potential for inbreeding were real and pressing. The Melon Heads, with their grotesque appearances, served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of genetic isolation and the importance of maintaining diverse and healthy populations. In the Connecticut version of the Melon Head legends, the story revolves around former patients of an asylum that was destroyed in a fire. These patients, who suffer from hydrocephalus, escaped the blaze and sought refuge in the nearby woods, where they became reclusive and feral human beings. This theme of mental illness and neglect adds a tragic and horrifying elements to the legend, highlighting the potential consequences of mistreatment and neglect in mental health care. During the mid-20th century, there was a growing awareness of the mistreatment and neglect of patients in mental health institutions. There were multiple cases of abuse and neglect, as well as the broader movement towards deinstitutionalization, raised public awareness about the need for better mental health care and the potential consequences of neglect. The Melon Head legends can be seen as a reflection of these concerns, highlighting the potential horrors that can result from the mistreatment and neglect of vulnerable populations. And now for some personal thoughts. As I delve into the haunting world of Melon Heads, I can't help but reflect on the deeper meanings and implications of this enduring legend. On the surface, the Melon Head story is a chilling and captivating tale of mysterious beings that lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting intruders. But beneath the surface, this legend reveals a wealth of insight into cultural and historical context from which it emerged, as well as the broader societal fears and anxieties that it reflects. Because this legend serves as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears about the unknown, scientific progress, genetic isolation, and the mistreatment of the vulnerable populations. By examining these stories, we can gain valuable insight into the cultural and historical context in which they originated and the underlying concerns that they reflect. In this way, the Melon Head legend serves as both a cautionary tale and a reflection of our collective anxieties. The enduring appeal of the Melon Head legend also highlights the powers of storytelling in shaping our perceptions of reality and creating shared experiences. Urban legends like the Melon Heads provide a compelling narrative that can be passed down through generations, These stories not only entertain and frighten, but also serve as a means of exploring and understanding the broader context in which they emerged. We bring this eerie episode of What Dwells Beneath to a close. Let's recap the chilling adventure we've embarked on together. Today, we descended deep into the legend of the Melon Heads, exploring their origins, the regions most commonly associated with them, and the grotesque characteristics that define these mysterious beings. We shared well-documented reports and personal testimonies of encounters that sent shivers down our spines. From the dense woods of Ohio, Michigan, to the secluded areas of Connecticut, the Melon Heads have left their mark on local folklore, becoming an enduring part of the paranormal landscape. We heard about the unsettling sightings like the one from Tony, where a melonhead kept pace with their car. We also explored the eerie encounter of the group of kids in the mid-60s who stumbled upon a secluded farmhouse inhabited by melonheads and their nuclear scientist father, only to be sternly warned by local authorities to never speak of it again. Remember, you're listening to What Dwells Beneath, a true crime and paranormal podcast hosted by me, Perzival, and produced by the incredibly talented Neku. We couldn't do this without our amazing listeners, our dwellers. Thank you for tuning in and making this show what it is. Your support and engagement mean the world to us. Before we wrap up, I have a few requests for our dedicated listeners. If you're listening on Spotify, please take a moment to answer the poll and leave a comment. Your feedback helps us create better content and engage with our audience. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating the show 5 stars on Spotify. For our Apple listeners, we kindly ask you to rate us 5 stars and leave a review. All engagement helps the show grow every single day, allowing us to bring you more spine-chilling stories. In our next episode, we'll be reading your personal encounters. If you're a new listener and want to submit your own experiences, be sure to join our Discord. We currently have over 2,000 members, and it's growing every single day. In the Discord, you'll find a submission form for personal encounters. Please make sure to check that we have permission to read your story on the show. Without that, we won't be able to share it. If you're looking for more content from me, Perzival, be sure to check out the link tree in the bio. It will take you to my gaming YouTube channel and my social media accounts, including Instagram and X. Connect with me there for more updates and content. Before we sign off, I leave you with a final thought. As you go about your daily lives, remember that the shadows hold secrets, and the darkness is never far away. Stay vigilant, stay curious, and always keep an eye out for what dwells beneath. Until next time, this is Perzival signing off. Sweet nightmares, my friends.